The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Outside Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard.
For the fourth week in a row, the Lotus 49 Series has decided to stick around in the UK. And why not? It's a classic British car, so might as well check off as many classic British tracks as you can. This time around, it's Silverstone. But despite a penchant for older, faster layouts, this season the community has decided to give a shot at the modern GP course. Will its tighter, more technical circuit play well with this group? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 49 Golden Anniversary World Cup. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, we're back at Silverstone again, but in case any of our retro fans aren't as familiar with this layout circa 2009, tell us a little bit about it.
Top of the morning to you, Joe. Located right here in England. Take that trip across the big pond, and for today's race, and Joe, it's in the little Northamptonshire villages of Silverstone and Whittlebury, built on this site of the World War II Royal Air Force Bomber Station. It is the current home of the British Grand Prix, which was first hosted in 1948. Now, the old historic version is one of 5 available configurations offered on iRacing, but today we are running the Grand Prix layout here. The 17-turn, 5.14 kilometer track, that's 3.194 stateside, is pretty special and fast and a lot of slow, very tricky chicanes. But the best way to get a look at this track is to hop on board the GSRC Lotus 49 for a ride around Silverstone.
All right, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming up to Cops, this can sometimes be a place to pass, but it'll be tricky. The tough part will be getting the power down, especially if you slip a little wide onto the AstroTurf. Managing the grip will be important. Switch sides now to set up for the entry to the Maggots-Beckett sequence. As you enter the first left-hander, you'll be slowing and braking, which will make this very much a single-file affair. You'll be busy all through here with little squirts of the power and stabs of the brakes, always turning. Set yourself up for the final right-hander and try to get on the power as soon as you feel the grip return. Chapel is going to be especially tricky because the rear will want to break away. It's important to get as good of a run as you can, with the hanger straight being the longest flat-out portion of the track. This sets up one of your best opportunities to pass into stow. Expect some difficulty in keeping the car tucked into the apex though. There's a big blind rise that loves to cause understeer. From there, you've got a short burst before Vale. This slow chicane can maybe offer a chance for a surprise attack, but be careful with how tight it is through here. Club is a weird one though. Diamond off this double apexer because this car doesn't like to turn and accelerate. Opening up the exit as much as you can should allow you to ease onto the throttle sooner. Then comes the Abbey chicane. This is another possible spot for an overtake, but that's assuming you got a good launch out of Club. Stab the brakes hard coming in, but as you come out of the second half, it's surprisingly open and you'll want to feed onto the gas smoothly yet quickly. Then there's Bridge, which needs a little lift and a compromised line on the exit. Drivers will be taking different lines coming out of here and into Priory. That makes attacking and defending kind of sketchy. Now we're into the slowest, most technical section of the track. Brooklands can be especially frustrating. Once again, it's a bit of a compromise in the line with it leading directly into the next corner. Lastly, there's the long hairpin of Luffield. Trying to square off your exit here will be important in order to give yourself speed for the pit straight. You're not totally done yet since Woodcote won't be completely flat out, but if you kept it on the track, you've now finished a lap around Silverstone. And there you can see a lap around this classic course. Should be a good one today, even though it's a little bit of a small field for this series, but tends to put on some interesting racing. Now, let's take a look at the championship. Let's start off with the Drivers' Championship now that we're 4 rounds in. And Ove Trangerade still leads, but the plot thickens as Dudignon cuts into that lead, having won in the last round at Brands Hatch. We expect him to continue to claw that in unless more trouble comes to the Frenchman over the course of the season. He tends to have pace over the Norwegian. Billy Bob Wright tied for 3rd with Bruce Nelson as Nelson moves up with him. And then we still have four drivers tied for fifth. They just can't seem to sort that one out down there at the bottom of our Drivers' Championship. Now, there's also the Constructors. Sean, what's that looking like?
Well, Joe, it's looking like Norway is at the top of the action right now. Now, France is making a charge. Now, Michel Dugnan certainly always helps that effort. They are now solidly in second. Yeah, U.S. falls a point behind there to third. Watch out for the Finns because here they come. Just 10 points away out of third place there. And we've the same problem we have in the Drivers' Championship over here on the Constructors' side. We've still got several countries trying to figure out fifth place. Maybe we'll see a little separation by the end of today's race.
Seeing a little bit of chat, a few drivers regulars in this series that aren't showing up to race today. Apparently Bruce Nelson a little bit upset that he's missed it. He's chatting here away in iRacing. And Bruce, we miss you as well. Wish you could be out there. But regardless, we expect things to be pretty good as the first drivers get their laps in and qualifying. Billy Bob Wright with a nice time temporarily takes pole with a 147 flat. Dugnan overtakes him for that one.
And I was just about to say, I'm sure we'll see some 145s before this is over and done with. And what does Dugnan do? He goes out there and throws down a 145.8 for his first lap. Claridge gets his first lap in at a 146.4. Talked to Mick Claridge before this race, and he said his season starts today, Joe. He needs to start picking things up a bit. He's having more success and a lot more fun on Sundays. He's got to get that here over to Saturdays and really trying to get into this points battle.
And there's a significant margin between Dugnan and Claridge. I wonder if he had a mistake in this first lap, or just maybe Dugnan just put a stunner in. Because right now they are separated by, looks like 0.6. That's a big chunk.
It really is, and I don't know if Dugnan just found the right line, the perfect line there on the first lap or not. We'll get a chance here to see as we've got Dugnan getting around on his lap now. He's just ahead of Claridge here.
They're going to be crossing the line in quick succession unless something happens to one of them. Going through the Abbey chicane there for Dugnan. Now down through Bridge into the tricky entry to Priory. Both of them looking nice and smooth here so far. And then there's this section which just doesn't seem to fit this car, if you ask me, Sean.
Luffield, yeah, there's no... As the lap guide I looked at said, there's no real strategy for Luffield. Just get the car around there. And then you've got to be careful here, getting out of Woodcut and up the straight here. It's a delicate balance.
Ooh, the plot thickens. Dugnan improved his time, and Claridge did not.
He did. In fact, he didn't register a time, Joe. Must have had an off there somewhere. And that, we haven't talked about that. There are several spots here where you got to be very careful with the track limits. Certainly
do, and I think Claridge has discovered that as we watch Trangrade currently sitting in third on the timing sheets. He's about 0.4 back from Claridge. Could he overtake him, even bump him off the front row? Claridge may have said that his season starts today, but it certainly doesn't start off on the greatest of notes in qualifying. Trangrade now hitting the technical final section of this track. Up to Brooklands, trying to tuck it down into that apex nicely over the curbs. Gets it in very far up and over those rumble strips.
Curbs your friend here, Joe. There's grip on those curbs here at Silverstone.
Certainly not tall enough to really upset these cars as Trangrade crosses the line. He improves, but he's only a 10th off of Claridge, so he's going to stay in third for now. Looks like Billy Bob Wright is not going to finish his second lap, so let's watch Bear as he currently sits in 6th out of the 13 cars that have signed up for the race today.
Trying to go a little quicker here in the second lap. Car sliding on him a little bit there, Joe.
Not much time left for drivers to finish their qualifying. I think Bear should be the last one that we watch across the line. That 148.8 improves down to a 148 flat, but he's a 10th shy of Ulstead for the top 5. Claridge seems to be attributing Michel's time to his set, as he thinks that he's found something special. But let's go through the grid. Dudin as we said, on the pole by 0.8 of a second over Mick Claridge, who completes the front row. Ove Trangrade is going to be starting in 3rd. Billy Bob Wright will complete row 2. Then, starting in 5th, it'll be Jack Ulstead. He is flanked by AJ Bear in 6th. Sean?
All right, go back to 7th. It's going to be Hideki Koivitso, the Finn, making it there. And in 8th, it's going to be Raymond Smith. Row 5, Sandeep Banerjee and Richard Morin. And then we'll go to 11th. Don, tell me something good. Christopher Mellor will start 12th, and Laurent Raffagot rounds out our 13-car field, Joe.
Glad to see a couple unfamiliar names. We always like newcomers getting into the Lotus 49 series, as more unfamiliar faces means potentially more regulars. Raymond Smith is one that I don't think we've seen yet on the broadcast, and Christopher Miller as well.
Yeah, the Canadian Raymond Smith and Christopher Mellor, a UK and I driver. Little company there for Mick Claridge.
Drivers now getting onto the grid. As I saw Michel Dudignon disappear for a second. I'm not sure if he's had any connection problems. He's back now. Waiting for a lot of the top drivers to finally get out on there. Mick Claridge is now out there on the grid, as just a couple more to go with a few seconds left. A few of the engines starting to rev here in these Lotus 49s. We're working on round 5 here at Silverstone, and you're watching it on the Global Sim Racing channel. Going to be difficult to get off of that curved grid. These cars not liking to put the power down in those low gears, especially with the steering wheel cocked to the side.
Well, the trip at the cop's going to be very scary, Joe.
Thankfully, they do have a lot of runoff to take to if they need it. Car tends to like to lose traction a little bit out of that corner from my experience, so do need to be careful trying to put that right pedal down. All right, lights are now up. So a little puff of smoke from Dudignon there on screen. Not sure what that was about. Green flag is out, and we are now racing here at Silverstone. Claridge with a horrible start, though. He's already under threat for second. Up around the outside comes Billy Bob Wright with an aggressive move. He backs out of it. A little bit of another puff of smoke as Dudignon locks him up down into turn 1. Wright still going to be able to hold on to 3rd. Trangrade slips down into 4th as they get single file for the Maggots-Beckett sequence.
Joe, everybody gone line of stern here real quick in the race. Christopher Miller decided to start from the pits. Oh, Raymond Smith is off into the grass. No trouble there. Doesn't get in anybody. Everybody back under power.
Dudignon already gapping Claridge as they hit the hanger straight. Claridge looking over his shoulder at Billy Bob Wright and actually goes defensive down into Stowe. Didn't seem like Wright was close enough to make an attack, but obviously the Ferrari of Claridge is once again just a little bit defensive onto the inside of the track into Vale. Now they hit Club. Not sure why Claridge is going offline so early.
Definitely needs to get with it.
Morin off track in the background coming through Club. Did he hit the wall?
Yeah, he hits it at the very end, but what got that started was contact. He is going to go side by side with Laurent Raffagot, who the car seemed to push out a little bit there on Raffagot getting there through the turn. It did not end well for Richard Morin.
Now, Morin was able to get going. I'm seeing Raffagot scored in... Oh, wait, no, it's not scored in last. My time in scoring was lying to me there.
Yeah, he's in 13th, Joe.
Actually, I'm seeing him in 10th. We see a car entering pit lane. Done good. I didn't see him hit anything. He must have maybe just not put enough fuel in. So an interesting start to this race. AJ Bear is actually going side by side, heading into the Maggots-Beckett sequence. That's hard to do, and Jack Olstead spins off early. That is so tough to go in there too wide, Sean, and I'm not too surprised to see Olstead, unfortunately, lose control.
Yeah, and he looks like he maybe tried to tap the brake right there, and the rear end of that car just broke around on him. He's very fortunate to just get off into that sand pit. Took him a while to get back on track, but Jack's back out there in 10th.
As we can see on screen, this time Claridge under threat for real, as Billy Bob Wright and Ove Tranquerade right on his gearbox coming through club. If Claridge can get himself a decent run, he can keep himself from maybe having to defend here into Abbey, and look at that. Going to stay single file now as they head into this last chicane.
You know, Joe, very possible that Mick might have upset those rear tires just a little bit here early. It does seem like he's struggling with grip here just a bit. It's 22 degrees centigrade out today, clear. It's 27 degrees centigrade on track.
So we rode on board with Mick a little bit earlier, looking back at the chasing cars. We saw a good example, Sean, of the different lines these drivers sometimes take into Priory. That corner just offers up so many different options if you want them.
It does. It does. And there's a lot of track to work with there, actually, surprisingly. It does. There are options. Boy, and I'm watching Billy Bob get this run at Mick Claridge now.
Yeah, Floridian's having a very solid start to this race, and he is on the aggressive, trying to see if he can take the second place away from Claridge. I guess Billy Bob didn't get the memo that Claridge's season started today.
Yeah, I guess not. What has happened? Dugnan is able to pull away, Joe. He's now opened this up to just about 1.3. Yeah, Billy Bob sliding all over the place. Mistake. Here comes Tranquerade.
That puts him to the outside, but that's going to switch to the inside, coming into Vale. Here comes Ove Tranquerade trying to be aggressive on the brakes. Can't quite outbrake the Floridian into the corner. He's going to have to stay there, but once again, slide to the outside. Mick Claridge. Wow. Did he make a mistake, or is that a cut course penalty he was serving? That was unusual. That lost him 2 positions, so bumped Billy Bob Wright into second and Tranquerade into the final podium position.
Yeah, not really sure there, Joe. You could certainly pick up a cut course penalty here, but boy, Claridge all over Ove Tranquerade now.
Norwegian having to watch his mirrors, but it wasn't enough of an opportunity for Claridge to try and take that third place back. They all get very close to one another through the slow hairpin of Luffield and accelerate away through Woodcote. Haven't seen many attempts down into turn 1, but coming out, we've seen a couple cars make good of the better traction some of them are finding off this corner. Let's see if we see anybody manage to have a go, and it looks like they're all going to be about even heading into Maggots and Beckett's.
Joe, is it me, or does it seem like Claridge is maybe a little bit slower on these wide open sections of the track here?
Could be the case. Not sure why he would be much slower unless maybe he just geared it that much differently. But look at Billy Bob Wright under threat from Tranquerade here, coming down into Stowe.
Oh, Claridge gets the grass and he's out off course.
Loops at a beautiful 360 and recovers to hold that same position. Let's watch from on board.
He's just going to get it out a little to the left here, Joe. Just a nick of that grass is all it took.
Oof. Probably thankful he didn't run into Wright there. And you know, I don't know if anybody noticed on my lap guide, I always kind of give a little bit of a berth on that left side, and that's the reason that I don't cut it that close. They're heading into Stowe. Always a worry with that kink on entry.
Well, now he's got to deal with Hideki Koibitso back there. Hideki's throwing down some good laps, but...
Well, that's actually AJ Bear.
I'm sorry, my bad. AJ Bear, yep.
AJ using all of the entry into Priory, swinging it very wide. Mick Claridge very much on the back foot here at Silverstone today. home race not doing well for the Englishman.
Joe, with all of that, it's Dudignon has now doubled in just 2 laps, doubled the amount of time he is ahead of this field. Now almost 4 seconds. Billy Bob being chased by Ove Trengerade here. Those two just don't seem to have enough speed to catch him.
Now, this has been a tight fight since the start, and it's continuing even without Mick Claridge amongst them, looking for that P2 to be sorted out. Still 14 laps to go, so a lot of racing left, but right now it belongs to the Frenchman with that 4.5 second lead. Meanwhile, a little bit farther back, looks like we got a bit of a fight for 8th.
We do. Raymond Smith right now holding it down. Jack Golstead trying to gain some of these positions back.
Oh, and just as we try to jump away from that, it looks like Trangerade has overtaken Billy Bob right for second. Thought maybe we'd get the midfield a little bit of love, but Trangerade's not willing to give the cameras a relax here. Now P8 is switching as well. Ulstead overtaking Raymond Smith, getting into that 8th position.
Did it in about the same spot that the last pass was made here, and Ulstead going to get to the inside, pull that off. Now, what's interesting up at the front of the field, Trangerade, now that he's gotten by, he's wasting no time and has extended himself to nearly a second ahead of Wright. Wonder if he was being held up a little bit there. Boy, hard to say. It certainly didn't look like he was being held up, but he seems to have found new life here. The Scandinavian pulls off that move, and now he gets to work on trying to close this gap on Dudignon, which is now just fallen at under 5 seconds. Have to watch to see if maybe Trangerade can try and close in on Dudignon now that he's been freed. So far, nobody has had the legs on the Frenchman. Driver who has had a little bit of the legs on the chasing car is Mick Claridge, who's gapped away from AJ Bear about a second himself and has run down Billy Bob Wright just a little bit. It was 3.5 seconds not long ago. Yeah, and you know, he's about that last lap by, he was about 0.8 quicker than Billy Bob. So that fight Billy Bob had with Ove probably benefiting Mick just a bit, but Mick seems to have a grip on it now. Looks to fight for a podium position here today. Farther way back at the back of the field, Lauren Raffago fending off the top 10 from Richard Morin as they head into the S's. Oh, and he makes a mistake. Laurent makes a bit of a mistake there. Allows Richard Morin to get a little bit closer. Morin getting a run at him now. Head down the hanger straight. Now is it a critical moment where you want to get the power down, but Morin's not brave enough. He lifts before they get to the braking down in his stow, so he's going to stay in 11th. Yeah, the hanger straight will really suck you in, Joe. It'll make you think that you can... Oh, trouble for Claridge. Oh. This has not been Claridge's season. And that you're going to see here on the replay, it looks like he just got back to the throttle a little bit too much right here, and the rear end breaks out from under him. Hits hard on the inside of bridge, and I'll admit it's easy to do that there. I was having to really be a little bit cautious with the throttle when I drove out of that chicane. Yeah, you're starting to head downhill there under the bridge, Joe, and it's a bit tricky. If you get too much throttle, obviously, like Mick just did, it's big trouble. The only battle on track that leaves now is Morin and Raffago, which will be bumped up a few positions. Well, and right now, Raffago still having his share of trouble. Morin, though, not able to capitalize on it. Oh, and as they come through Woodcote, a little bit of a peek to side-by-side. Morin now finally out-accelerates him. Coming down to Copse. Can he get it done? Looks like he's got it cleanly. So, move Richard Morin into 9th. Boy, Morin did a really good job of cutting off Copse there. That's what you want to do, is try and cut that turn off as much as possible. Now Morin seems to have the pace here to maybe pull away from Raffago. Canadian looking a lot more steady than the Frenchman, which goes a long way in this car. Just being able to keep it nice and smooth throughout the lap as already he pulls away from Raffago.
Sets his sights on Smith, who's about 16 seconds up the road. It's going to be a big ask to chase him down, but he's got 12 laps to do it.
You know, we've got another battle that might be developing here. It does seem like Jack Olstad is just a bit better than Sandeep Banerjee right now. Closing up on him here pretty quick. He's about a second faster than the last time they went by.
Remember, Jack qualified in 5th, and he made that mistake early on heading into Baggett's and Beckett's that sent him backwards. Already up into 7th. Ooh, big slide from Banerjee. And that's going to allow Jack to close in even more. Jack, another driver who hasn't been having the greatest of seasons. A few mistakes thus far have really cost him some good finishes. Takes a peek to the inside, down into Copse. He's given room at the inside by Banerjee, but can't get a nose in.
Ooh, here he comes. Watch out, Sandeep.
Much better on the brakes down into the Maggots-Beckett sequence. This time, though, he doesn't go too wide, having learned his lesson from before. Both of them accelerating out of Chapel. If you can get it just right, it's flat out. Oh, he's got a fantastic run. Look at him gain. Outbreaks him down into Stowe. Can he keep it nice and tucked into that apex? Beautiful move by Jack Olstad. Give him the first points paying position now.
You know, and Hideki Koivitso not too far up the road, Joe. There's still plenty of time. Be 10 laps to go the next time they come across the line. There could be another very good points-paying position up the road here for Jack. Slowly getting those positions back.
There we see the Finn. And I tell you what, we talk about some of the top drivers not having a great season. Koivisto is the reverse. Usually a mid-packer. Koivisto has been scoring points. I think he's gotten them every round so far, actually.
I believe you're right. And, you know, he's been a very busy driver on Saturdays because we see him in the Camel Series as well. Absolutely.
And he hasn't been doing too bad over there as well. Whatever Koivisto has done to turn himself around, he's found some pace and has bumped himself up a notch.
Wheaties, Joe.
I was going to say
that's the answer.
I was going to say maybe a little bit of help from his fellow Finns to find him some pace.
Oh, and I wasn't supposed to bring up food. Our director's going to be hot at me. Jeez.
Well, Koivisto has still got about 2.5 seconds over Jack Olstad, who's still trying to run away from Banerjee. He's not giving up on him. And you can see those two still relatively close on track.
You know, Michel Dugnan just turned his fastest lap of the race, Joe. A 1:45.7.
We wondered if Trangerade would be able to run him down. It doesn't look...
Trangerade with a mistake.
Oh, and that's going to hand second away to Billy Bob Wright. And Trangerade's taking a tow. Did he hit something? I thought he just spun off.
Oh, no, he blew the motor.
Blew an engine.
Yes. Uh-oh, missed a gear, Joe. He missed a gear coming into Abbey. Oh, crushing blow for... Oh, wow.
What was a great start to the season. We're going to watch on board and listen. And there you can hear it just go away. Man, there's no drop races in this series, Sean, so he's going to feel that.
Yes, he is. That is a big, just a big mistake there. And sometimes it's not a mistake either. You know, sometimes maybe you have a little bit of hardware failure that contribute to something like that happening. But a real shame for him. Hey, Jack Olstad has caught Koivisto here, just like we thought he might. And it's going to be this is going to be a good one here between the Californian and the Finn here in just a moment.
Let's stay on this battle, but just want to give an update on what this means for the points. If Dugnan stays where he is and wins this race, that is going to make it a tie for the lead. And that's just before we hit halfway in this season. I said at the start of it, the plot is thickening. And meanwhile, things are getting thick and fast for Jack Ulstead as he goes to make a pass down the hanger straight on Hideki Koivisto. As they hit the braking for Stowe, nice and clean into the corner. Ulstead now moves himself into fourth.
Boy, and Ulstead able to get it under braking and right down there on top of the curb. That right-hander, great job there by Ulstead. Despite his early trouble, he's having a sensational drive here.
Well, I did not expect attrition to play a role at this track, but we've now seen Mick Claridge hand positions away to a lot of the lower drivers, and Trangarade as well. Remember, Ulstead was in 7th only a few laps ago. He's now in 4th. It's going to be a little bit harder to get the next one into the podium because it's a whole 14 seconds up to bear.
Boy, and an update on Richard Moore, and what a shame. He was having a really good drive, and then he lost his connection. He's now returned, but he is obviously going to lose that time and probably a full lap, maybe 2.
Only 13 cars started this race, now down to 9. This is starting to look a little bit like some of the actual races did in 67, where if you just finish, you could potentially get points.
Here's our leader, Dugnan, still laying down some heavy laps.
In fact, the problems that those behind him have had has meant that the gap is extended to 13 seconds over Billy Bob Wright.
Yeah, and then, you know what? It's another just over 6 seconds back to A.J. Bear. Bear is not faster than Billy Bob right now. His only chance is to, well, get indeed faster to catch him. Jack Ulstead is back there in 4th, a full almost 14 seconds back. So a big split from the top 3 off to the rest of the field.
Aussie not having a bad run. He qualified in 3rd, but he qualified in 6th, but he's sitting in 3rd right now, having inherited a few of these spots. And as you mentioned, Jack Ulstead going to have to really make a hard charge to gain on him, so AJ is looking pretty solid to get himself a podium.
Just got to keep it on track there. Keep it in the gray, buddy.
Easier said than done sometimes with these cars. But you know, one thing about these drivers that I've noticed is a little bit different is it seems like those who take to the Lotus 49 series, Sean, are those that like a challenge.
Yeah, and those who like to get up early, Joe. No, seriously though, this car is the most challenging beast on iRacing. It has its detractors, but I think its detractors are only because it's tough to drive. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of skill, and a lot of practice. And let's face it, not everybody's willing to put into the practice that this machine deserves and needs.
We watch Koivisto and Banerjee work their way through the back and forth of the Maggots-Beckett sequence. I will say, and I know it all comes down to opinion, but having driven a lot of seasons in this car and stepped out into a few other cars in iRacing, I wouldn't actually consider this one the hardest. I would put the V8 Supercar a little bit tougher than this one.
Okay, and I've driven both. Certainly not seasons like you have in the Lotus 49, but I have driven a couple of different series in the supercar, and boy, I'm gonna be a little bit on the other side of still saying this is tougher, to be honest with you. It is for me to master the V8 supercar. It has its own tricks to it, but yeah, this I still haven't dialed this one in at all, not even close.
Giving some screen time to Don Good.
AJ Bear with a bit of a mistake back there, Joe. Sorry about that in Priory. He takes the line too wide.
And let's see, it actually didn't lose him much time to Ulstead, though. We're going to watch on the replay. Just coming in a little too hot. Loses the rear end, and as he has to catch it, takes to the gravel.
Yeah, that could have been fatal, though. You're off the throttle there, just trying to let the car come back onto the track. Obviously, any attempt to get to the throttle, it's not going to wind up good for you.
Ulstead only gained about half a second on Bear through that exchange, which is definitely not enough with only 6 laps to go. We're already getting down to the dying stages of this race. Most of the drivers have spread apart, so why don't we go through the field, give you an update on where everybody sits. Let's start with our leader, Michel Dudignon, up at the front. He took the pole, and by a wide margin. Now, he's got a wide margin in the race, but not through the means that we expected, as everybody else has simply fallen away instead of losing to him on pace as he puts a lap on the car. I think that is of Don Good. Yes, it is. So Dudignon gapping 16.5 seconds. Over second place, Billy Bob Wright. He qualified in 4th, but through just keeping this thing on track, he has moved himself up into 2nd. Looks like he's going to have to hope for a miracle to get by Dudignon and take a win today, though. Rounding out the podium, AJ Bear. We mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast. He qualified in 6th and has basically inherited spot after spot to finally get himself into 3rd and is looking safe. But as he once again slides a little bit coming into Priory, he needs to worry about keeping this car smooth to the end, because this is no sure thing to be able to take this final podium position. As we jump back to 4th, Jack Ulstead has had to fight his way up to get this high up as he made a mistake early in the race. Coming into the Maggots-Beckett sequence, spun himself into the gravel, has managed to get himself this high up into 4th, but seems to have halted his progress now at this point. Rounding out the top 5, Jav Hideki Koivisto, the Finn, has just been employing the strategy of slow but steady. Doesn't have the greatest of pace, but after qualifying in 7th, he has gotten up to 5th here and looks like he could bring this one home with another 2 points on the board. Rounding out the points-paying position, Sean, we have Sandy Banerjee, hailing from Club Asia. He's lost a couple spots from drivers as time has gone on in this race, but he did qualify in 9th, and he is up to 6th, so it is a net positive for him so far.
All right, back to 7th. It's going to be Raymond Smith, who started 8th in 7th, the newcomer, having a really good drive here. It's not a bad day here. If Smith can hang on to this, right now he's 40 seconds ahead of 8th place Laurent Raffago, who is, well, I think maybe struggling here just a bit today, but is up 5 position, has survived some of the drivers that have gone to the wayside at this point, and finds himself now in 8th. And then we'll go back to 9th, and Don, tell me something good today, man. He's out here still getting his Lotus 49 across this track. The Coca-Cola machine is keeping a decent pace, one good enough to stay within the 107%, I think. And he is the last car on track right now. As I said, back in 9th, he did start 11th. So positive move forward here for Don Good.
And if you're just joining us here on the Global Sim Racing channel, you're watching round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series official racing. It's the Golden Anniversary World Cup that they're celebrating this season in this car. 50 years that this car has been in existence. A classic one, as Michel Dudignon looks to be running away with things with only 4 laps to go. Your DNF so far: Richard Morin disconnected, unfortunately. Ove Trangerade blew an engine. Not a typical one that we see in this series. Mick Claridge made a mistake coming into bridge and unfortunately hit the wall hard. Decided that was enough for today. And Christopher Mellon, I'm actually not sure what happened to Christopher. Did we see his incident?
Well, he started from the pit to begin with, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe he decided it was a bit too much for him. I'm not sure, Joe.
Not unusual in this car, as you mentioned. So difficult to drive that sometimes drivers just do decide that they don't want to be a danger if they don't feel confident enough, to be able to complete the race without affecting anybody else's. AJ Bear, as we watch him work his way through Abbey. Only 6 seconds back from Billy Bob Wright. Oh, as he almost tries to collect it together coming through bridge. Now he finally gets the car going once again. I was about to say, as we watch the replay, that Billy Bob Wright could still be within the clutches of the Australian, but if Bear keeps doing that, he certainly is not going to be able to take that second place away. A mistake from Wright could still put him down into third.
Well, I'll tell you what, Billy Bob now more than ever needs that focus here over these last 3 laps, Joe. It's you don't want to lose out on a great opportunity for a podium finish. And Billy Bob, where he's assured of getting that podium finish, second place, obviously better than third.
Love how you can really see the arms sawing away at the wheel when we get the onboards of these cars. These cockpits so extremely open compared to most modern open wheel machinery. But one thing I would like to see iRacing implement, I'm sure they're probably working on it in the background, is getting the over-under animation, the crossover for the arms for this car.
I do hear hashtag soon.
Oh, I think we had a little bit of a mistake from Laurent Raffago, and that loses him a spot. Just happened moments ago coming into Brooklands. See if we can...
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. He was being lapped, so he pulled over intentionally on Dunigan there.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. He did. He pulled over Dunigan down in Brooklands there. Lets him get away.
That makes 2 cars lapped and only 7 on the lead lap. But Raymond Smith is very safe from Dunigan, still a half a lap ahead of the Frenchman. Only 2 to go now.
Yeah, it's up to these drivers at this point, Joe. I think most of the positions have been decided. It's up to them to just keep the cars on track, keep fast enough to hold serve and get to the checkers here. It's been a little bit of a grinder here at Silverstone today.
Certainly has, and that's one thing that I think is something to keep people around, even though, as you said, it's spread apart, as you can see on the gaps in our timing and scoring. This is a car that you just never know if someone is going to make a mistake and give you an opportunity, even if you're as far back as 10 seconds, 13 seconds, as some of these drivers are. That's enough if a driver fully spins and turns it around to be able to sneak by and take another position. So we watch Billy Bob Wright have to worry about that. Now 26 seconds back from Dunigan.
I guess you could say Dunigan's on a real flyer today, man. That a pretty uncontested event for him.
Let's jump on board and see how a master does it. A little bit of disappointment here today, I'm sure, for the British fans. This is going to be twice in a row that we're going to have a French winner at a British track. Unless disaster strikes on Dunigan, he gets the white flag coming around through Copse, nice and smooth, taking it all the way out to the AstroTurf, back onto the black stuff, swinging it across the track, now breaking down into the Maggots and Beckett sequence, slowing it up as the curves tighten here through the S's, lining it up to try and get back on the power so that he can stay flat to the floor through Chapel and now down the hanger straight where he can really unleash the power of this car. Warming it up into Stowe, one of the best places to try and make an overtake in this machine. As it swings back downhill, the modern GP course taking you braking slow into the chicane of Vale. Into Club now, trying to square it off, bringing it back down to the apex, and once again having to be careful onto the power, Sean.
Yeah, that balance we talk about. I think Dunigan's got this one figured out, though, as he heads into the Abbey chicane one last time. Nice smooth trip through there.
No such problems as we saw for Claridge for Dunigan. Now into the final technical portion of the course. He's got a 31-second lead. And in fact, Billy Bob Wright is starting to fall into AJ Bear, so we might want to jump back to him once we cover the finish with Dunigan. He comes around up to the final corner where Woodcote finally is a quarter in this car. You have to make a little bit of a lift, but Dudignon takes the win at Silverstone.
All right, Billy Bob Wright coming into Prairie now.
Not sure if he made a mistake or if maybe he underfueled the car, because what was 6 seconds is down to 3 with AJ Bear gaining.
And Don Good right in front of him here. Don will surely get out of the way. He does.
And not wanting to get in the middle of this fight. He doesn't have anybody to battle with. But Billy Bob Wright is able to hold him off. He's going to take a second place finish. AJ Bear rounds out our podium.
Olstad into Woodcote now. He'll take fourth. Fantastic
recovery drive for Jack. Get this fourth spot. Another 2 points on the board for Hideki Koivisto. What a great race from the Finn. Brings it home in fifth. And the final points paying spot is going to go to Banerjee. Smith will round out our drivers on the lead lap in at seventh. With that, we're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're going to come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, we're going to have all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Silverstone, where we just watched round 5 of the Lotus 49 Golden Anniversary World Cup. And once again, for the second time in a row this season, Michel Dudignon is going to take the win here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Billy Bob Wright was a whole 33 seconds back when all was said and done, but he still gets second place no matter how far back he was. He fended off AJ Bear in the end, who rounds out our podium. Jack Olstead is going to be able to come home in fourth, and then Hideki Koivisto finishes in fifth, with Sandeep Banerjee rounding out the points paying positions in sixth. Sean?
All right, Raymond Smith, the Canadian, going to have a pretty good run in his debut here. 7th. Laurent Raffago struggled just a bit today, but did pick up a couple spots there. He finishes 8th. Don, tell me something good. He finishes 9th. Richard Morin, connection problem, ends his race today. He finishes 10th. Ove Trengrade, well, he popped a motor and will finish 11th. Mick Claridge, tough day for Mick, 12th. And I guess he's going to have to start the season next week. Christopher Mellor will finish 13th on the grid. He had early trouble. Not sure exactly what happened, but Christopher, come back. We'd love to see you again, buddy.
Poor Mick. We don't mean to pick on him. It just was a little sad to see that he was so determined and it did not go his way once again. But first up, we're going to talk to second place finisher Billy Bob Wright about his race. We'll start at the beginning of it. Billy Bob, you got off the line very well, and you had to go at Mick for that second position. Was it a serious attempt to try and get by, or did you know that you were going to back out by the time you hit Copse?
No, I was trying to get by because I don't know if you guys were listening before the race started, but Michelle just destroyed us in qualifying. It was really weird coming into the session. The track slowed down a lot more than I think everybody anticipated, except for Michelle. And Mick jokingly asked Michelle to share his set, and he did. And to my surprise, Mick made some comments that indicated that he actually loaded that set, which apparently he did. So I thought, man, he's going to be on a set. He has no idea what it is. I'm going to attack. And so, Uwe, I think, is running ballast. I mean, I don't think he'll ever admit it, but I still say he's running ballast because I can smoke him at the start every single time. So I knew I would get by him, and then almost got by Mick. And then, of course, as you saw, Mick had problems down the way. But no, man, one of the few times I was seriously trying to get in front of Mick and hope I could take it to my advantage.
Well, that might explain why we saw Mick making a few uncharacteristic mistakes throughout this race. Odd that he decided to go for an unknown setup so close to the start of the green. Now let's jump to the end of the race, though. Your pace seemed to slow down a little bit. Were you trying to save fuel? Did you underfuel it, or did you have some sort of issue?
No, I was trying to let Don finish ahead of me. I didn't want to lap him, and he just about lost the position there at the end because I didn't want to go on and say go go go. But anyway, I did need to save fuel a little bit because I actually dropped a half gallon right before the start, and so I did have to save fuel for a couple of laps. But there at the end, I just wanted Don to finish ahead of me, and almost worked out.
Next race, it looks like we've got Oulton Park. I have to ask, because I didn't notice or pay attention close enough in the discussion of the schedule for this season. Did you guys mean to have this many UK tracks right at the start?
I kind of stay out of that. I enjoy just driving to whatever we've got, and Oulton is super difficult, as you guys know. And at first, I didn't like it, but I've learned to really like the track. So relative to the schedule, I just drive whatever they put up there, man.
All right. Well, look forward to seeing you again next week, and congratulations on another podium.
Yeah, very unexpected. Looking forward to seeing the broadcast so I can find out what the heck happened. That was a weird race. So thanks, guys. See you next week.
All right. That was Billy Bob Wright, second place finisher. We've also got Jack Ulstead, fourth place today. Sean is going to talk to him about his recovery drive.
Yeah, Jack, you have trouble early, then you find yourself fighting to get those spots back. You finish one spot ahead of where you started there. Talk about what happened early, and then tell us about the fight you had with Sandeep Banerjee and Hideki Koivito to get around those guys.
Yeah, quite a crazy race, just as Billy Bob was saying there. It really was my own, brain fart, I guess you could say, or just poor decision making. First I overshot my brake marker going into turn one on that. What was that? Second lap? Start of the second lap, I guess. And it's just I don't know. I just had brain fade, and all of a sudden I'm going into turn one. I'm like, oh man, I didn't get on the brakes when I was supposed to, and I'm sliding through the turn trying to keep the car on the track, and that's when AJ really got up on my butt, and I could tell he had a run on me going into the first part of the S's. So I was trying to make sure I left him room in case he was going to dive down on me, and I just screwed up and went too wide, I think, from what I remember, and went off, and of course I had to let everybody go by me and do it again, just like I did last week. But yeah, it was fun racing with, Sandeep and I go way back to the old Grand Prix Legends days. I've known Sandeep probably at least since, I don't know, 2000, so 17 years maybe, something like that. So he and I go way back, and so it's fun racing with him again. And Hideki's just getting so much better. I have a feeling Hideki is going to follow in the footsteps of all Finnish drivers and be a force to reckon with in the very near future here, because he just keeps getting better and better and better. So
he does, and I noticed his iRating is starting to climb as well, which means he's getting a lot of races and a lot of practice in, and that's dangerous for the rest of you guys that are ahead of him right now.
Yeah, especially for me. I'm not practicing nearly as much these days. That's probably why I keep screwing up, I guess. I just don't have the time right now. I'm trying to take care of some stuff in the family, and then working as many hours as I can right now, because I got some pretty cool stuff going in my career right now. So that's you got to set your priorities, but you also got to have that time to play. So yeah, this is actually I was able to get in sooner than I thought I would. Some races I thought I was going to miss a lot more races than just the first two of this season.
Hey, I found it was very interesting. You mentioned your relationship with Sandeep and how long you've known him. I started sim racing in 1999, and I've met a lot of guys back from the beginning that I still talk to, and we've become friends. I'm curious, have you two actually ever met in person?
Well, no, because Sandeep's over on the other side of the world. So, it's funny though, when you've raced with these guys as long as you have, you feel like you have met them in person, especially cool guys like Sandeep. He's just a great guy, and we're Facebook friends and all that stuff. But no, I got buddies that go back. We go back to 1998 when GPL first came out, and guys that I still talk to, and some of them are still sim racing. Some of them are actually still racing GPL. In fact, believe it or not, a league that we had started, me and a few guys back in, right after GPL came out. But
I started a NASCAR heat in '99, and actually I still know one guy that's still running NASCAR heat in a league. And
wow,
it's funny you run across all those people. I've also had the pleasure of meeting several of the people in person that I've become friends with through sim racing online. So yeah, good little story there, Jack. A lot of fun today. It was a pleasure watching you fight back from a little trouble early.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for covering this, guys. You guys are doing an awesome job.
Thanks, Jack. We really appreciate that, and Joe, certainly we'll plan to see Jack again next week as he fights here in the championship.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be a number of drivers that share his issues this season. We've seen so many mistakes that top drivers have been making. It's shaken things up and given us an interesting championship fight, that's for sure. We hope it continues as the season goes on. But right now we have to close up. And once again, another thank you to Jack Ulstead and Benjamin Zoko, do a lot of work behind the scenes to get the championship in order here and also get us to air. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. And if you follow Casey's Twitter, you may have seen that he's announced he's got a new album coming out soon. I believe he's finished pretty much all of the tracks at this point. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check us out on social media. We're on Twitter as well. That's at GSR Channel. Or we're on Facebook, just Global Sim Racing Channel there, one word. Next race, as we mentioned, Oulton Park, incredibly tricky, very punishing in this car. Should be one to watch. That'll be Saturday, October 21st at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 1 week from today. We'll also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.